Diretsahang sagot sa mga diretsong tanong. Ito ang Juan on Juan. Hindi propaganda, walang kasinungalingan. Kung ano ang tanong, siya rin ang sagot. Ako ang inyong host na si Undersecretary Joel Sy Egco. Patuloy ang kampanya ng gobyerno laban sa terorismo at insurhensiya. At katuwang ang Anti-Money Laundering Council o AMLAC sa pagtugi sa mga grupong terorista. Ngayong araw, alamin natin ang papel ng AMLAC sa pagtunton at pagpigil sa mga banta sa seguridad at kapayapaan sa bansa. We are very lucky today because we have with us one of the most respected names now, in government. Actually, I'm working with her sa National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict po. And with no further ado, I'd like to introduce to you ang aking idol, ang super respetado po talaga namin, talagang lahat ng advice niya, lalo na patungkol sa mga legal matters, ay talagang saludo kami. Wala pong iba kundi si Justice Angie V. Miranda, mula po sa Office of the Solicitor General. Ang si Justice Miranda po ay kasama po namin sa NTF-LCAC bilang chairperson, ng legal cluster po namin, class. So, today, Justice Angie and I will talk about, the designation and proscription of terrorist organizations under the newly passed anti-terrorism law. But before that, I'd like to give the floor to Justice Angie para po mag-greet ang ating pong mga kababayan at taga-subaybay ng one-on-one. Justice Angie, kamusta po kayo ngayon?
Hi. A pleasant afternoon, Usec Joel. It's a pleasure for me to on one. Okay. So magandang hapon po sa mga sumusubaybay sa palatuntunan ng aking kaibigan na si Usec Joel sa one-on-one. And thank you, Usec Joel, for that very kind introduction. On the contrary, you are my idol and Usec Lorraine in Stratcom, of course. You're so brave. You're so articulate.
Saktong-sakto, Justice, no? I know that you are one of the, if not the most, qualified person, to or official po to answer these questions about the anti-terrorism law. First off, I'd like to know, our viewers would like to know how terrorists are identified dito po, under the anti-terrorism law. Could you explain to us po, Justice Angie?
To answer that in simplified form, there are three ways on how to identify terrorist individual and terrorist organization. Number one, by the specific acts. The commissions of acts defined in Section 4 to 12, and by designation and by proscription.
When it comes to, when we say designation and proscription, how do we differentiate the two? Because the first way of identifying terrorists are through their acts, of course, no? But these two are very highly technical, and I think these terms, proscription and designation, are what we should explain fully to the people so that they will better or best understand what those terms are. Justice Angie, please.
Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, designation actually is an executive act. It is pursuant to the in our jurisdiction, it is through the Anti-Terrorism Council designation. And proscription, on the other hand, is a judicial act. It is with the Court of Appeals. The jurisdiction is with the Court of Appeals. To differentiate further, in designation, there are three ways to designate. The automatic adoption of the United Nations Security Council's 1373 by request of other jurisdiction to designate our organization, our association as a terrorist, and by the Anti-Terrorism Council if there's a probable cause to believe that this organization, whether local or foreign, is a terrorist organization. To give you an example, just like what the Anti-Terrorism Council of the Philippines did last December 12, if I'm not mistaken, it designated the CPP-NPA as a terrorist organization.
All right. What about proscription, Justice?
Okay, prescription. As I mentioned earlier, it is a judicial act. You have to file a petition with the Court of Appeals upon the recommendation of the NICA and approval of the ATC to the Department of Justice. There should be a petition to be filed with the designated Court of Appeals to hear the petition for prescription. That is the big difference. As I said, the designation is an executive act through the agency, while prescription is a judiciary proceeding, through a judiciary proceeding and a judiciary act.
Okay. And those identified terrorist groups by either designation or proscription are listed in the Anti-Terrorism Council po ba na list? Do they maintain that list?
Well, based on the law, it's the Anti-Terrorism Council of the Philippines that really keeps the listings of terrorist organization within our jurisdiction.
All right, all right. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Justice Angie. Once they have been identified as terrorist organizations, for example, the CPP-NPA, no, recently they have been listed, no, as a terrorist organization, and also recently we heard news or announcements by first from the Department of Justice and then the Anti-Money Laundering Council. No? How does this work? What is the relationship between that announcement by the DOJ and the freezing of assets by the AMLAC? So is it only the DOJ that can do that po?
Once an organization, association will be designated or prescribed, the AMLC, the Anti-Money Laundering Council, motu proprio, or by motion, can initiate investigation, can issue a freeze order. In fact, it's exactly what the AMLC did last December 29, when it issued a notice of resolution under Task Force 33 series of 2020, wherein it categorically said that the funds, property of the CPP-NPA will be under freeze for a period, of course, of 20 days, and before the lapse of that, should apply with the Court of Appeals for an extension for another 6 months. And mind you, it is not just actually the money of the organization or the CPP-NPA, but any person, whether natural or juridical, including those institutions, private or not, that deals directly. Kaya nga po, we, the CPP-NPA, and giving financial assistance. In fact, in the very statement of Executive Director Mel Rosella, he said, actually, it is not just the CPP-NPA, but we are actually clamping down also anyone, natural or juridical person who deals with the CPP-NPA in any form, like, number one, revolutionary taxes, campaign taxes, winning fees, and protection fees, and the like. If they deal with a designated terror organization like the CPP-NPA, we'll prosecute them for terrorism financing under Section 8 of Republic Act 10168. Okay? So it's very clear.
Yeah, it's very clear. So even if somebody is not a member of the organization, but if he was found to have somehow helped in financing that organization, the CPP-NPA for instance, whether he's a private individual or a government or a politician or whoever he is, he may be held accountable for terrorist financing under the law. Did I
Yes.
All
And
right.
aside from that, dalawa po ang tama niya, Usec, under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 also, giving financial assistance. So there are two different laws that would cover that act.
So there are two laws? Did I hear you
Apparently,
correctly?
because Section 8 of 10168 penalizes that also. This is about terrorism. And we passed a law, which is, of course, Republic Act 11478, which is the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020.
All right, I see. All right. So let's go to the issue on, Justice, often we heard a lot of what we call or who we call CTG personalities, they cry like activism is not terrorism, activists are not terrorists and all that. And I think they're just trying to muddle the issue, no? So we are here right now to clear that up, no? We are not, the law is not against activism per se. So how does the law now protect legitimate activism, no? Despite their efforts to muddle the issue nga, sinasabi, inaatake kami, mga legitimate na aktivista, pinagkakamala kaming terorista. So let us now po clarify that for the sake of our kababayans who are watching. Ano po yung protection ng anti-terrorism law sa legitimate activism naman? Kasi yung may mga legitimate organizations, no? Meron pa nga dyan yung mga party list na sinasabi natin na related sa kanila. Pero may mga party list naman na sinasabing, well, medyo makakaliwa, pero hindi naman CPP-NPA. So, how does the law guarantee that they are safe?
First off, visions of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 is very clear on that. That, advocacy, protest, dissent, even stoppage of work or industrial mass action or the like, act, provided that said acts are not in cause death or serious physical injury or endanger a person's life or to create a serious risk to public safety and etc. So that's the qualifying statement there. And to add, for the protection of these legitimate organizations, dissenters, legitimate dissenters, because marami po tayo ng ganyan, di ba? Sabi ko nga po, you're always free to vocalize whatever you have in your heart of hearts, as long as you don't carry guns to kill fellow Filipino. Wala pong problema yon. But once you cross that line, mahirap na po. Yun enumerate ko. So another safety measure, doon po sa mga nag-aalala, would be the sanctions imposed by the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 itself. For example, if a law enforcer, be it military or a PNP, abuse the provisions of this or will not follow, there would be three full penalties or charges against that government or military personnel or government employee. Tatlo po yan. First, criminal. Okay? Ang penalty niya ranging from 10 to 12 years. And civil action, of course, for damages. And ito po ang masakit. Halimbawa, 20 years ka na trabaho sa gobyerno, being a PNP, military, or whatever. There is a perpetual disqualification for you to hold public office and forfeiture of all your benefits as a public employee or a law enforcer. So yung po ang mga maraming safeguards, actually, those are just few that I'm mentioning to you, Usec Joel.
All right. Thank you very much, Justice Angie. That's very clear to me. So just a recap of what you said. So for as long as legitimate dissenter ka, and you're not calling for, overthrow of the government or killing of people or inciting to sedition or violence, it's okay, right? And another safety net of the law, another safety net of the law is that it imposes harsh punishments, no, against state actors or state agents or state workers who would violate the law, no, up to the point na may perpetual disqualification and forfeiture of all benefits and assets and all that. So mabigat nga po 'yon. All right. So another question po, Justice Angie, is you know how active social media is right now. And social media is fast becoming the new mainstream. Grabe. As in, hindi na nanonood ng TV halos ang mga, in fact, sinihan sarado lahat. Theaters, very long time ago, used to be the mainstream, di ba? Then, naging television. And now, it's social media. And now, people are wondering if, kung sa social media, nag-repost sila, for instance, ng statement ng CPP-NPA. Ni-repost or senior, no? Or nagsabi sila doon na I support the CPP-NPA. Can they be held liable under the law for doing so?
It depends on the context kung ano po yung repost nila, because under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, there are several acts there. Proposal to commit terrorism. Pag yung, well, of course, it depends on the context and the intent of the one that reposted it. Meaning, it will be taken in its holistic approach.
Okay.
It depends on the evidence. Meron pa sinasabing inciting, threat, proposal. Pero more on proposal, I suppose, or inciting, yung binabanggit ni Usec Joel, because the use of social media is really powerful. We have to admit that. Marami silang nare-reach na mga tao, and we will going to assess, of course, the entirety of how we're going to go about it. But generally, reposting of a legitimate dissent, which I mentioned already, not to terrorist organization, they have is a very legitimate exercise of your rights to be heard and to express yourself. Pero lagi pong may demarcation ang batas. So sabi nga nila, you're free to do all the things that you want to do as long as you don't step on anybody's toes. Napakasimple po niya. Just like we are under a government of laws and that of men.
All right. Thank you, Justice Angie. Well, in a nutshell, kumbaga, ano yan eh, sige, share mo na share. Kung gusto mo, nag-share ka lang. Galing naman sa, you know, a lot of mainstream media outfits also are reporting about Joe Masison, the CPP spokesman, etc., the NPA attacks and all that. So, if people would share those things, wala namang problema doon eh, di po ba? Unless somebody who posted it would say, ibagsak ang gobyerno, ituloy ang revolusyon, ubusin ng at sumapi sa NPA.
That's really
so,
different. No.
Yes, that's different. That's different. That's actually inciting to...
The context is very different now.
Yes, those are two different contexts. So, for the clarification and information of our viewers po here and abroad, so yung po yung difference. If you are just posting for the sake of posting of, for sharing an information, that's nothing. Pero if you share something and you put something in there calling for a revolution, for sedition, for people to kill people, or you incite violence, that's another thing. That would be violative of the law. So, yun po ang problema. So, yun ang malinaw. Alright, thank you, Justice Angie. Let's go now to the...
Most welcome.
Let's go now po, Justice Angie, doon sa whole of nation approach na sinasabi natin dito sa ating grupo dito sa NTF-ELCAC. As I said a while ago during the first part of the program, Justice Angie Miranda and I are working together in NTF-ELCAC, particularly the Stratcom cluster. But she heads the legal cooperation cluster there, the LCC class na sinasabi po namin. And they're actually doing very good. They are in charge of, defending the government and answering petitions against government officials like me, filed by, well, these people on the other side. So we're going to the, well, more deeply into this so-called whole of government and whole of nation approach. So yung whole of government, as I explained kanina, yun nga, yung nagpagtutulungan, no, among the clusters of the NTF-ELCAC. And whole of nation naman, yung involvement, of course, ng mga kababayan natin. Katulad po ninyo, you are all stakeholders now. People who are watching right now are stakeholders in this, in this campaign. No? You may be against, you may be for it, but the most important thing is we're here to explain everything to you. So, Justice Angie, with all these things that are happening now, with all these efforts that we are doing now at, well, in NTF-ELCAC, and all the workings of government agencies involved here, do you share the belief that we can actually end local communist armed conflict by 2022? That's the promise of the president. So, what's your take on that, po?
Well, thank you for asking that. It's a very primordial question for me, because all our efforts in the National Task Force to end the local communist armed conflict will be that. Okay, so just to make a refresher, it was in 2018 that the NTF was created with the very purpose of ending the local communist armed conflict, and through whole of the nation and whole of the government approach. That's why you might wonder, I am from OSG, Usec Joel from PCOO or PNA, and there are numerous names that I can mention coming from different agencies of the government. Because we have this one in a lifetime, I might say that, because by far, under the leadership of our very strong and popular president, he issued Executive Order 70, which is, of course, to end the local communist armed conflict. To answer the query, I am absolutely certain that under God's grace, we're going to end this scourge of 52 years communism in our country. That's why I'm appealing to all your listeners. For one's country, parang biglang natin nasasabi. Minsan, pag nag-flag ceremony nga tayo sa loob ng sinihan, mayroon pa ako nakikitang hindi tumatayo. Huwag po. Maraming namatay para sa Republika ng Pilipinas. At tayo, we are so lucky to have this freedom out before us. Put our hands together to end this 52-year scourge to our beloved country, the Philippines. On that note, I thank you so much, and mabuhay po ang bansang Pilipinas, mabuhay po kayo, Usec Joel.
All right. Thank you, Justice Angie. Thank you very much for that, very enlightening words from you. But before we leave you po, Justice, no, I have one more thing to talk about, no, with you, to discuss with you. Kasi alam naman po natin, no. So let's go to the issue on mag-segue po tayo doon sa abrogation issue noong DND and UP Accord, no? Ito na naman daw ay dahil may anti-terrorism law, etc., and all that. So I read your legal opinion or your statement on that, no? If I'm not mistaken. So could you clarify po on the issue of abrogation? Was it proper? Does that affect yung sinasabi nila na academic freedom? Does that trample on the rights of students in the university? Your take po for our final discussion po, Justice Angie.
Okay. The question is very timely, ha? Masyadong hot issue yan ngayon eh. Okay, actually, there are so many grounds on why we should and must nullify that. In fact, what the SND did was long overdue. Because I don't know if you've read our legal opinion on that coming from the Office of the Solicitor General. There are actually 5 grounds to nullify that. Okay? Yun ang pong ginawa niya. That is qualified agency or doctrine of qualified agency. That it is the liking of the president to end this because there's a total hindrance for our law enforcers to effect the law. Akalain mo ba na kailangan pang magpaalam sa President, Chancellor, bago ka mag-effect ng warrant of arrest? Lawful order ng court yan. Bakit po ang mga kailangan pa ng... It's really a violation of the rules of court. Yun po ang ipinagtatakot ko doon. Moreover, if they say that it's a violation of academic freedom, I beg to disagree. I'm sorry. Because academic freedom po, may mga requisites po yan. Wala po doon pumapasok yung abrogation. Because academic freedom, you have the right to choose who to teach, what to teach, without interference from the state. So wala po akong makita because location lang po ang pinagsasabihan natin. Location, it is the venue, it is the UP. Bakit po mag-iiba ang trato natin sa UP as vis-a-vis other schools? Wala pong valid classification under the Constitution of that. Mababiolate po ang due process, ang Equal Protection Clause natin. So, well, I do respect all the professors, of course, the president, but let's hear the voice of the majority of the people. It's 95%. We have to be peaceful. We have to have a progressive Philippines. And you know for a fact that it is not just an innocent ideology that is being propagated within that pronounced that categorically because what is obvious need not be pronounced at all. On that note, I think I answered your query at that point, Usec Joel.
Thank you very much, Justice Angie Miranda from the Office of the Solicitor General and also the chairperson of the NTF-LCAC legal cluster. So maraming po salamat, Justice Angie, and everything that you said, they're all very enlightening. Thank you for the wisdom and for the time. No, I know you are very busy right now. As I told the production crew, let's start promptly and end accordingly because Justice Angie is a very, very, very busy official. So thank you once again, Justice Angie. I hope to see you once again and to have you as a guest once again in our future, one of our future episodes. Thank you po. Maraming po salamat. And
Thank you very much po. All the time, Usec Joel.
Thank you very much, Justice.
Bye-bye. God bless and your program. God bless you all. Stay safe.
God bless you. God bless you. And on a final note, mga kababayan, segue doon sa UP. Tama po, it's a long overdue abrogation. You know why? Binuo po yung UP at DND Accord na yan nung nandun pa ang Philippine Constabulary at Integrated National Police. Wala na po ang PC, wala na po ang INP. Nandiyan na po ang DILG at ang Philippine National Police. So ever since, wala naman pong mga Army, Navy o Air Force o Marines na talagang sumusugod sa UP. Di po ba? Wala naman eh. Pumupunta ngayon ng Army para magtanim ng kanilang mga itinanim doon during the pandemic na mga gulay. Alright. So, on that note, i-follow ang Philippine News Agency sa aming website o kaya sa Facebook at Twitter. Ako muli ang inyong host na si Undersecretary Joel Sy Egco, ang Supervising Undersecretary po ng PNA. Samahan nyo kaming muli sa susunod naming talakayan. Dito lang kung saan may diretsahang sagot sa mga diretsong tanong. Ito po ang One on One.